I can continue doing this type of drawing. And as you can see, it's going to take me a while to do this in paint, because what I'm searching for are boundaries around objects. And that's fine. I could keep going with that. We could eventually end up with a line drawing, a full completed line drawing. But when it comes to painting, you need more than that, because as I'm looking at things, as I'm looking at objects or whatever subjects in front of me, I don't want to just see the boundary around objects, because that's really not the way that we actually see things out in nature. We see things more in terms of shapes, what I would consider mass drawing. Instead of finding the boundaries around my object, like on this teacup here, instead of that, I'm looking at a whole shape, like this whole light shape up here makes this elliptical shape right here. That's one big shape that I'm looking at. Or maybe this shape that comes down here and then stops here, this dark shape, and then comes around here and stops. It's one big shape. This is another little shape, a lighter shape inside of this bigger shape here. Down here, the spoon. It's one big oval shape. I'm not looking at the actual outline around it. I'm looking at this whole section here as one dark shape, and then all of a sudden there's a lighter shape inside of that dark shape. That's more the way a painter thinks, and that's really what I'm going to be focusing my discussion today on drawing, because it's so important to learn how to see things in terms of shapes rather than just lines. Because if you only see things as lines as a painter, the tendency is to do this, is to go ahead and put my outline here, and then once I get my entire outline, to go ahead and just fill it in with a little bit of shading, which doesn't really work for a painter. If you want to advance as a painter, you need to think along a different line. And that's really what I want to discuss here today. But before I do that, I want to give you one more example of a great example of line drawing. There's one of my favorite old illustrators was Charles Dana Gibson. And Charles Dana Gibson was a late 19th century illustrator, early 20th century illustrator. He lived in that time period, and the types of illustration that he did were line drawings, because back then they didn't have the advanced technology that we do today as far as the printing technology with full color and gradations of different blacks and whites and grays and things like that. But basically it was just line drawing for reproduction in magazines and in illustrations. And so this is a great example of how Charles Dana Gibson used line to express the form in his subjects. You can see the lines that go around the chair here. They come up. It's just a series of lines all next to each other. As you come up here, the line comes across here and then back down. And then when you get up into this area around the head, you've got a line that outlines where the hair is. But then this is where it gets very interesting, because then you have this line that represents the profile of her face. Now, everything in line drawing depends on that line. So let's say I take out, if you can imagine me just erasing this line right here, just erasing that entire line that goes down the profile of her face. If I did that, you no longer have her face there, because line drawing relies so heavily on that outline. And as a painter, you can't just think in terms of outlines. So we need another way to represent form, and that's when we get into mass drawing. But as I'm working on this, I'm not trying to make this teacup super detailed, because I don't have to as a painter. Painting, if you think of painting, think of it as visual shorthand. You don't have to paint everything that's in your subject. In fact, every great painting that's been painted has actually been a record of simplifying things in nature. Because that's what the artist's job is, part of the artist's job is to do, is to help simplify things that not everyone sees every day. I'm going to bring the rest of this big shape. Well, before I move on, I should probably point this out, because right now I can see I'm a little long here, and so when you work with drawing, an important aspect of drawing is accuracy. Accuracy is very important, because if I don't get those shapes that we're talking about correct, if they're not in the right place, just so it's not going to look like this cup. It's not going to look like the object that's in front of you. So it's very important to be accurate. But how can you be accurate in drawing as it applies to painting? The major thing, I guess the biggest thing I would say, is measuring. You can measure drawing. That is the one good thing about drawing, is that it's measurable. So for instance, I've got a little measuring tool that I use here that I like to use that helps me. This tool, I'm going to take the top of this tool from here to the bottom of here. That's where I'm measuring. The distance in between these two things is how I measure on this photograph. So I'm going to take the measurement from the top of this cup to the bottom of this cup. You can hardly see it because it's so dark in here, but the bottom of this cup, and I'm going to measure the distance between the top and the bottom and see what that measurement is. Okay, now I've got that measurement. Now I know how tall this is from here to here, but now I want to find out how wide the cup is. So if I take the same measurement, I haven't moved that measurement because that's my reference point, and I rotate it sideways and I go to the top, you'll see that the measurement from the edge of the top here, of the one side of the cup, to the edge of the other is just about the same size as the distance from the top of the cup to the bottom of the cup.